Good morning. Welcome to the Department of Family and Support Services Congregate Dining Meal Services RFP webinar. Just a few housekeeping rules. Due to the volume of participants, everyone has been placed on mute. Please submit questions via the questions box and we'll respond to questions at the midpoint and end of the presentation. Please make use of the question box to notify us of any technical issues. Please be advised that this webinar is being recorded, and anything stated at this webinar is not intended to change the solicitation document. Any changes will be informed in writing in the form of an addendum issued by DFSS, and the purpose of this webinar is to provide information for the solicitation. A copy of the recording will be posted on the DFSS YouTube channel with the link to the recording under the alerts and or funding opportunities tabs on the chicago.gov website. Please give it up to 5 business days to upload. DFSS retains the right to share a list of registrars to this webinar along with their contact and organizational information at our discretion. At this time, we're going to introduce the senior team that will be discussing the Congregate Dining RFP. So I'll hand it over to senior.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today's RFP webinar. My name is Maddie Petrilla. I'm a project coordinator with the Department of Family and Support Services Senior Services Division. I'm joined by my colleagues, Janice Johnson, project coordinator with the Department of Family and Support Services, and Assistant Commissioner Nikki Garbus-Prutzos.
Thank you. As of now, we're going to go through the purpose of the RFP. We're going to discuss the background, information about the scope and program description, the selection criteria, timeline, technical assistance for applicants and e-procurement, and then one last round for questions. With that being said, I'll hand it back over to the seniors starting with the purpose of the RFP.
So the Department of Family and Support Services is seeking proposals from qualified agencies for the provision of congregate dining meal services that are high quality, nutritious, responsive to consumer needs and preferences, culturally appropriate, and cost effective. For the congregate dining program, we operate 2 models. We have the catered meals, which are meals prepared off-site and delivered to DFSS designated nutrition sites. We have 45 of these catered meal sites that are located within 3 geographic regions, North, Central, and South. And you can see attachment 1 for a better description of that. We will be awarding contracts for the catered meals by region. For on-site meals, these are meals that are prepared and served at the same location. They are culturally specific meals, diets that can include Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, Latinx, Caribbean, Italian, Greek, Lebanese, kosher, halal, Indian, or Pakistani, among others. As funding allows, DFSS may award up to 3 to 5 nutrition sites that prepare and serve meals as on-site meal providers. The awarded congregate meal providers will be responsible for the provision of meals and related nutrition supplies and equipment as specified in this RFP. Next slide. The City of Chicago's Department of Family and Support Services is the city's primary social service provider for vulnerable residents of Chicago. Our mission is to work with community partners to connect Chicago residents and families to resources that build stability, support their well-being, and empower them to thrive. Our department's priorities are to deliver and support high quality, innovative, and comprehensive services that empower clients to thrive. We collaborate with community partners, sister agencies, and public officials on programs and policies that improve Chicagoans' lives and advance systemic change. We also inform the public of resources available to them through DFSS and its community partners. And we steward DFSS resources responsibly and effectively. For more information on our department, please visit the link below. Next slide. The DFSS's Senior Services Division, we are the Senior Services Area Agency on Aging for the City of Chicago as designated by the Illinois Department on Aging. As the Area Agency on Aging, DFSS Senior Services provides various programs and services that protect the rights and support the needs of Chicago's older adult residents. The Congregate Dining Program, often referred to as the Golden Diners Program, assists older adults 60 years and older and their spouses to live independently by promoting better health through improved nutrition and reducing isolation through program socialization and the provision of additional supportive services. In accordance with the goals of the Older Americans Act, our congregate dining program works to reduce hunger and food insecurity, reduce social isolation of older individuals, promote the health and well-being of older individuals, and delay adverse health conditions. Next slide. In addition to the overall goals we've discussed, this congregate dining program RFP aims to reach the following SMART goals as well. For the catered meal provider, by December 2027, we're looking for each congregate dining program delegate agency to feature at least one regionally grown fruit or vegetable item per month in its meal provision. By December 2027, to also have that delegate agency increase the frequency or nutrition education distributed from twice per year to 4 times per year. And by December 2027, the catered congregate dining delegate agency would also increase the number of culturally inspired meals in the general diet offered from 6 to 9 meals per quarterly congregate dining menu. For the on-site meal providers, by December 2027, each on-site provider would also need to feature at least one regionally grown fruit or vegetable item per month in its meal provision. And by December 2027, each on-site delegate agency would also need to increase the frequency of their nutrition education from twice per year to 4 times per year. Next slide. In terms of where the congregate dining program currently is, as of fiscal year 24, we served over 556,000 meals to nearly 20,000 participants. To date for fiscal year 2025, as of the second quarter, we've served over 270,000 meals. In terms of where we're looking to improve moving forward, we'd like to improve the provision of culturally appropriate, nutritious, and high-quality meals to help promote the health and well-being of older adults who are experiencing food security. In support of cultural and ethnic diversity, DFSS would also require all catered meals providers to incorporate 9 culturally inspired meal offerings within each quarterly menu. And these culturally inspired meal offerings would be inclusive and reflective of the diversity of Chicago's older adult population, including a variety of cuisines, which may, for example, be Latinx, Southern, Caribbean, Italian, Greek, Indian, Polish, Lebanese, Chinese, Vietnamese, Filipino, to name a few, but that's not an inclusive list. Next slide. For the congregate dining program, in accordance with the Older Americans Act, service providers must target older adults with the greatest economic and social need, those that are low-income minority older adults, and those with limited English proficiency. Eligibility to receive these meals at a Golden Diner site include the following, but it's not limited to individuals that are 60 years of age and older, and the spouses of those individuals regardless of age, including individuals of the same sex who are legally married. Individuals with disabilities who have not attained 60 years of age, but who reside in housing facilities occupied primarily by older adults at which congregate nutrition services are provided. Individuals with disabilities who reside at home with older individuals who are eligible under the Older Americans Act. There are no income thresholds or costs to eligible recipients for the meal service, but clients are asked to make a voluntary contribution towards the cost of their meals. Next slide. In terms of program requirements, all congregate meal providers are required to comply with the requirements of the program as specified in attachment 3 and within this RFP. All meals must follow the meal pattern developed by the Illinois Department on Aging, and all menus must be approved by a registered dietitian. In addition to complying with standards, all meals must provide the following: 1 serving of lean meat or meat alternative, 2 servings of vegetables, 1 serving of fruit, 2 servings of grain bread or bread alternative, 1 serving of fat-free, low-fat or milk alternative, decaf coffee, tea as requested, margarine when rolls are served. Those must be offered daily as part of the menu for all meal types. In terms of a meal unit for our program, that equates to 1 meal, and that consists of the following. That's the total cost of the specified food. That's the delivery to the site for catered meals. That includes disposable and non-disposable supplies, eating utensils, serving equipment, cleaning supplies such as garbage bags, dish detergent and vinegar, transport, packaging, and other supplies. Serving equipment such as steam tables and coffee pots should be furnished by awarded caterers, and you'd want to reference pages 13 to 14 of the RFP for more information regarding required food service equipment. Next slide. In terms of further program requirements, you'll want to consult the following attachments for applicable information on nutrition sites. To learn more about the regional geographic boundaries, please see attachment 1 for the Congregate Dining Program catered nutrition sites. Nutrition site listing, which includes all of the sites and includes their meal serving days and times, diets and cuisine served, daily number of meals. That will be an attachment 2, and sample menus would be an attachment 4. In terms of the meal types that we provide, hot lunch is applicable for catered and on-sites. Holiday hot or box lunch meals, these are themed and these are applicable for catered sites. Shelf-stable meals, which are applicable for catered and on-sites. Cold box lunch meals, which are applicable for catered sites. Pre-plated meals, which are applicable for catered sites. Special event hot or box meals, these are specialty meals and these are applicable for catered sites. Regular hot box or pre-plated meals with uncut decorated cake or cupcakes, those are applicable for catered sites. And special citywide box lunch meal, that's applicable for catered sites. It's important to note that the hot lunch meal type and the cold box lunch meals, when you are completing your cost proposal, that the same rate should be provided for both of these meal types. Next slide. The congregate meal provider is also responsible again for supplying the following non-food items, which would be again included in each meal unit cost. So that would be disposable supplies and non-disposable supplies, cleaning products, and food service equipment. For catered meal providers, this would include steam tables. There needs to be a minimum of 2 portable electric steam tables for each nutrition site. Steam table pans, these should be pans with tight fitting lids sufficient to maintain hot food for bulk meal service. Coffee making equipment, this should be 150-cup standard pot for small regional sites, 1 or more 100-cup pot for larger regional sites, and a supply of various coffee pots with the capacity to serve the average meal count at each site available upon request. For on-site meal providers, they should have and utilize applicable kitchen equipment in working condition for the purposes of safely storing, preparing, and serving meals. This should be refrigerator, freezer, oven, stovetop, etc. On-site meal providers not using ovens to maintain food temperatures prior to service must use steam tables and pans as specified. Next slide. In terms of cycle menus, this is applicable for both catered and on-sites. There are 4 seasonal cycle menus for the hot lunch, box lunch, and pre-plated meals. Draft menus are due to DFSS's consulting dietitian no later than 45 days prior to the next menu cycle, and they must be approved by the registered dietitian. Menus must be prepared according in accordance with Attachment 5, which is the DFSS menu planning standards, as well as Attachment 6, which is DFSS's food specifications for cycle menus. For catered meal providers specifically, as specified by DFSS, the catered meal provider is responsible for the inclusion of additional nutrition information on these quarterly menus, which may include an itemized carb count for each menu item provided on each service day, inclusion of specified symbols to denote meals that are meatless meals, the inclusion of specified symbols to note menu items that are lower in sodium, and provide additional information or nutritional guidance as directed by DFSS. Next slide. In terms of the meal serving guide, a meal serving guide must be prepared by the congregate meal provider for catered sites and be submitted to DFSS's consulting dietitian for approval when submitting the cycle menus. At least one copy of the approved serving guide must be distributed or made available at each site for each cycle. And a food handling guide must be approved for pre-plated meals at the beginning of the fiscal year in which the contract is awarded for each nutrition site, detailing instructions on heating these meals for the site workers. For catered sites, meal orders need to be submitted by DFSS 1 week in advance, and changes to meal orders follow the time frame specified in the RFP. Next slide. In regards to emergency plans, this is for on-sites and catered providers. All congregate meal providers must have emergency backup plans for maintaining services and ensuring client well-being during weather-related and all other emergency situations. This could include power outages, staff shortages, flooding, etc. At a minimum, these plans should include a plan for backup operations should the provider's main business location become unavailable or the ability to prepare and provide meals is interrupted. In terms of days of operation, all sites, both catered and on-sites, should be serving meals a minimum of 5 days per week. All congregate nutrition sites are closed on the 6 major holidays, which are listed in the RFP. Distribution of required program information, unless otherwise specified, information will be developed by DFSS and distributed via awarded meal providers. This is for both catered and on-sites. For nutrition education, catered meal sites will receive the nutrition education. On-site meal providers will be responsible for developing these materials and distributing them. Both sites will receive nutritional risk brochures provided by DFSS, as well as the food allergies and special diet information sheet, SNAP information, and annual client satisfaction survey. Next slide. In terms of service delivery for catered meal providers, you can reference pages 19 through 21 for more information, but meal packaging must meet regulations approved by the City of Chicago's Department of Public Health and be designed to prevent seeping, spilling, dripping, and leaking. All meal delivery equipment must be food safe, appropriate, and capable of maintaining hot and/or cold temperatures. Hot food must be delivered hot. It should be no less than 135 degrees Fahrenheit, and cold foods must be delivered cold, no higher than 41 degrees Fahrenheit. In instances of reported shortages or poorly prepared meals, the meal provider shall make every attempt to replace necessary items prior to serving time or issue a credit to DFSFs. In terms of delivery specifications for on-site meal providers, please reference pages 21 to 23 of the RFP. Food service staff are required and reimbursements are made on a negotiated hourly rate. Adequate facility compliance is required, and attachment number 9, the program self-evaluation, is required to be uploaded with the RFP responses for your specified site. Outreach, socialization, participant registrations, and collection of voluntary contributions is required for on-site meal providers. Next slide. In terms of quality control for cook, chill, heat production systems or any production system that includes prepared food storage, the awardee will be required to submit food samples to laboratory for pathogenic organism analysis quarterly. The awardee must also have clearly written sanitation, safety, and monitoring policies and procedures. For the Good Food Purchasing Policy or GFPP, to the extent possible, the catered meal provider will be required to participate in the GFPP program and work with the GFPP team to record and report purchases in regards to the congregate dining program. You'd want to reference the following attachments for more information. That would be attachments 7A through 7C, and these include the GFPP standards, policy commitment, and tracking form sample. Next slide. In terms of staff and training requirements, each delegate agency must have sufficient staffing levels for the preparation, delivery, specifically for catered, and execution of the congregate dining program as outlined in this RFP. Each catered meal provider must specifically identify each of the following personnel and provide their resumes. Project manager, who will possess a minimum of 3 years of management and supervisory experience, that will administer all aspects of the program and ensure that the program standards are followed. A registered dietitian or nutritionist for menu development and client inquiries related to the nutritional content and/or analysis of the meals provided. Designated staff available to respond to food service concerns that are called into the congregate hotline during the hours of 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., Monday through Friday. Drivers who have appropriate driver's license class, insurance, and a clean driving record. Drivers must also receive training and certification as food handlers, and background checks must be performed by the provider on all staff who interact with the congregate dining program staff and volunteers, including drivers and drivers' assistants, whether they're employed directly by the provider or subcontracted. Next slide. For each on-site provider, in terms of staffing and training, each on-site must specifically identify each of the following personnel and provide their resumes. That would be a project manager who possesses a minimum of 3 years of management and supervisory experience that will administer all aspects of the program, which include day-to-day management and administrative functions, and ensure that the program standards are followed. Should also include the services of a registered dietitian or nutritionist, or utilize a DFSS approved nutrition software to ensure menu compliance. For both catered and on-site meal providers, all food service staff must receive training and maintain appropriate certifications in accordance with state and local public health codes. All staff performing food handling activities, including congregate meal delivery drivers, are required to receive training and certification as food handlers. All staff and volunteers working in the food prep and food service area shall be under the supervision of a person in charge who holds a food service sanitation manager certificate. And then for both programs as well, food safety in-service training beyond the city and state requirement should be provided for all food service personnel. Next slide. In terms of background check requirements, as we mentioned, those are required. The respondent will comply with all applicable federal, state, and local law, ordinances, policies, procedures, regulations, rules, requirements, and executive orders relating to background checks, fingerprinting, and screening procedures to ensure senior safety. In connection with the services, the selected respondent will not permit any adult, whether a member of the respondent's staff or otherwise, to be involved with the services or to have direct contact with seniors if any applicable legal requirements would prohibit such adult from having such involvement or contact. Background checks are an allowable cost if it's included in the agency's budget that is submitted to DFSS, and an allowable expense by the grantor. Adults 18 and older, whether they are staff, volunteers, consultants, subcontractors, operators, individuals in family homes, or individuals used to replace or supplement staff who may have direct or indirect contact with seniors or access to their confidential information, will need to complete a background check. Next slide. Delegate agencies, again, are required to administer the following types of background checks for individuals listed above at time of hire and every 5 years after, which include a fingerprint criminal background check that searches both FBI and state databases, a search of the Illinois Sex Offender Registry, a search of the APS or Adult Protective Services Register if delivering services in a senior's home. In addition to having records of completed checks available during DFSS monitoring visits, delegate agencies also need to have written policies on background checks, which include an appeal process for individuals who dispute the findings of their background check, a policy to address commingling of services if your service locations include programming that serves both seniors or children, and a policy on conditional employment while an employee awaits results of their background check. Next slide. In terms of further program requirements, invoices, reports, and supporting documentation, catered meal providers will be required to maintain daily and weekly receipts of the meals delivered and to submit these weekly summary invoices to DFSS. Daily delivery receipts will also be required. At each location, the Congregate catered meal provider must present for signature an itemized receipt for the food and supplies delivered. A weekly summary invoice. Each week, the agencies should submit a weekly summary invoice to the DFSS nutrition program, which includes the number of meals provided for each day of the week by region and by nutrition site within each region at the negotiated meal unit rate, a summary of the total number of meals provided for each day of the week and the total cost of those meals, and signed delivery receipts for the period being billed. Additionally, monthly reports from the catered meal providers must be submitted to DFSS directly by the last week of the month and include the number of meal order changes submitted by DFSS, the number of food service delivery issues, including the number of meals rerouted, and the number of meals provided by type. Next slide. For on-site meal providers, they will be responsible for completing daily program reports and keeping track of attendance data. Each on-site provider must utilize the required DFSS voucher template when submitting their monthly billing. Invoices must be submitted by the 5th day of the month and must include the following support. A meal billing form for Congregate Dining Program is provided by DFSS. Salary certifications for reimbursed staff, a copy of the weekly Congregate Dining Program summary page report, a copy of the daily Congregate Dining Program tally sheets, and a copy of the Congregate Dining Program weekly project income report. Next slide. In terms of client satisfaction surveys, both catered and on-site meal providers must have procedures for obtaining the views of participants regarding the services they receive and involve participants in the planning and operation of the nutritional services provided. For catered meal providers, the Congregate Satisfaction Survey is developed in collaboration with DFSS and must be distributed to clients minimally once a year. The catered meal provider is responsible for providing the specified copies of these surveys for each site as directed by DFSS. For the on-site meal provider, the Congregate Satisfaction Survey again is developed in collaboration with DFSS and must be distributed to clients at least once a year. The on-site meal provider is responsible for providing the specified copies of these surveys for their respective site. And they're responsible for the collection of these surveys, which would then be forwarded to DFSS for analysis. In terms of complaints or grievances, both catered and on-site meal providers must have written procedures for reviewing, handling, and resolving any complaints from clients or other individuals. Additionally, a complaint log must be kept that records the name of the client, date, reason for dissatisfaction, and steps taken to rectify the situation by the congregate meal provider. All complaints, whether they're voiced in person or over the phone, must be recorded in the client complaint log and submitted to DFSS monthly or as otherwise directed. Next slide. Terms of delegate agency meetings, for the catered meal provider, DFSS would have weekly and monthly meetings with the catered meal providers or as designated by DFSS. And those would be to discuss program operations and progress. Attendance is mandatory for those meetings and is not subject to reimbursement. For the on-site meal provider, quarterly meetings or as designated by DFSS would be held with each on-site meal provider to discuss program operations and progress. And again, attendance is mandatory for those meetings and not subject to reimbursement. In terms of technology requirements, all catered and on-site meal providers must have a working PC or laptop with a valid email account for the purposes of receiving and sending program-specific communications as appropriate. Catered meal providers must identify staff who would be trained to work with the aging IS system, Profusion system, and any other software system related to the congregate dining program as required by DFSS. All on-site meal providers will need to identify at least one staff person that will be trained to work with the City of Chicago's required computer system or program, and each on-site provider is required to use the DFSS provided Aging IS system for client tracking and reporting. Next slide. In terms of the performance goals and outcomes, to track progress towards achieving the outcome goals of this program and assess success, DFSS will monitor a set of annual outcome metrics that may include but are not limited to. These are based on the congregate satisfaction survey, but 80% or more of participants report satisfaction with the quality of meals provided. 80% or more participants report satisfaction with the variety of meals provided. 80% or more of participants report their nutritional needs are being met by participating in the program. 80% or more of participants report learning health tips from nutrition education and health promotional materials provided. To monitor and recognize intermediate progress towards the above performance indicators, DFSS also intends to track output metrics that may include but are not limited to the quarterly menu for both catered and on-site meal providers, which includes the number of locally grown fruit or vegetables included in the quarterly menu, the number of times the quarterly menus are submitted beyond the submission deadline, the number of culturally inspired meals included in each quarterly menu. That is not applicable for culturally specific on-sites as they are already providing culturally specific meals. Next slide. In terms of food service quality for the catered meal provider, this would include the number of on-time quarterly congregate samples submitted to DFSS for taste tests, the number of reported instances where congregate catered sites receive meals with compromised packaging, the number of reported instances where congregate catered sites receive an unauthorized menu substitution. For both catered and site meal providers, the number of on-time congregate catered and on-site quarterly menus submitted to DFSS, the number of congregate catered food service issues, complaints, concerns, delivery issues, or other program-specific complaints addressed in real time by the delegate agency, number of instances that food items and condiments provided are specified on the menus but not provided, the number of reported meal component shortages, the number of reported instances where missing entrees or meal components results in a resolution, and the number of congregate entree substitutions. Next slide. In regards to food safety for both catered and on-site meal providers, this would also include the number of incidents of foodborne illnesses, the number of quarterly pathogenic organism analysis of food samples reporting positive for Shigella, Salmonella, and Listeria, the number of critical violations cited by CDPH during routine health inspections. For the catered meal provider, this would include the number of reported instances where meal entrees and/or components are delivered outside of the appropriate temperature thresholds. Again, it should be below, we would not want to see anything below 135 for hot foods or anything above 41 degrees for cold foods. Number of reported instances where temperature issues are resolved as redelivery. And then for nutrition education, the number of nutrition education materials that are distributed to program participants. Next slide. In terms of the selection criteria, the basis of award, each eligible proposal will be evaluated on the strengths of the proposal and responsiveness to the selection criteria. DFSS reserves the right to consult with other city departments during the evaluation process. In addition to each applicant's score on the selection criteria, DFSS may consider additional factors in selection to ensure systems level needs are met, which include geography, service array, language, and ability to serve specific subpopulations as specified. Successful respondents must be ready to proceed with the proposed program by October 1st of 2025. And failure to submit a complete proposal and/or respond fully to all requirements will cause the proposal to be deemed unresponsive and therefore subject to rejection. Next slide. For the basis of award for catered sites, awards for the catered meal provider will be based on the RFP application score, meal costs, and availability of funding. Awards for the Congregate catered meal services will be made again by region, with each region evaluated separately. Should 2 or more applicants apply to serve the same region, those applications will be considered in competition. DFSS may award up to 3 delegate agencies for the congregate dining contract. As discussed in the RFP, the delegate agency can request a subcontract for specific diets and/or cuisines, but this is subject to DFSS's approval. DFSS again may consider additional factors as we discussed, such as geography, location across the city, capacity, experience, community needs, cost, and provision of culturally appropriate meals. Next slide. For on-sites, awards for the on-site meal provider will be based on the RFP application score, meal costs, and availability of funding. To ensure the provision of meal services across all areas of the city, DFSS aims to avoid duplication of services in awarding funds. For on-site meal provision, should 2 or more applicants apply to serve the same population, the applications will be considered in competition. DFSS will award the delegate agency that demonstrates the geography location across the city, capacity, experience, community needs, costs, and provision of culturally appropriate meals into the award. DFSS may award up to 3 to 5 delegate agencies for the congregate on-site contract. And again, consider additional factors in selection to ensure system levels are met. Again, geography, location across the city, capacity, experience, community needs, costs, and provision of culturally appropriate meals. Next slide. Selection criteria for the community involvement bucket. This section is worth 5 points, and we're looking for respondents to have developed specific organizational capabilities or infrastructure to better serve the intended target population, and that the respondent demonstrates client engagement activities that inform service delivery. The successful respondent also provides its organization's leadership composition and discusses how its leadership reflects and/or directly engages the population it serves. Next slide. For the organizational capacity, tab, this section is worth 25 points. The successful respondent will identify adequate essential personnel to devote to the work. They will describe appropriate staffing patterns and their qualifications in the context of clients to be served, which includes program staff, program oversight, and management, and they have a compelling strategy to fill these positions in a timely manner. The successful respondent will have adequate systems and processes to support monitoring program expenditures and fiscal controls. The respondent will have secure data collection and management practices, along with adequate processes for quality assurance and timely data entry. The successful respondent will have adequate human resources policies and procedures that address recruiting, hiring, retention, and background checks. And the respondent will discuss their ability to fill positions in a timely manner. The successful respondent will also have training programs for current and new staff members to reinforce and enhance understanding and delivery of services. The successful respondent will have the equipment, facilities, and communication plan to maintain continuity of meal service throughout emergency situations. The successful respondent will also demonstrate an ability to provide the meal volume necessitated by the specific program model. Next slide. For the strength of proposed program questions, this section is worth 35 points. The successful respondent will clearly define services to be provided directly or through partnerships or linkage agreements with other agencies that are appropriate to addressing needs of and achieving desired outcomes of the target population and the RFP. The successful respondent will have a detailed plan for retaining clients and client satisfaction and implementing client feedback within the program model. The successful catered meal respondent will have a plan to ensure and maintain consistent communication with DFSS. The successful on-site respondents will demonstrate a detailed outreach plan to promote their proposed program. The on-site respondents will have a plan for the promotion, collection, and accounting of voluntary contributions. The successful on-site respondent will have a plan to provide nutrition education as directed. And the successful catered meal respondents will have a plan to ensure the redelivery and rerouting of meals as directed by DFSS. Next slide. Continuing with this section, again, still worth 35 points, but the successful respondent will demonstrate the utilization of an approved nutrition analysis software or the utilization of a registered dietitian for meal analysis. The successful respondent will complete and submit attachment 10, which is a sample Congregate quarterly menu template with their application. The successful respondent will have detailed protocols and procedures for addressing and following up on any food service related complaints. The successful catered meal respondents will demonstrate experience incorporating culturally inspired diverse meals and/or diets within the meal service provision. The successful on-site respondent will demonstrate experience providing referrals and supporting older adults in need of additional resources. Next slide. For the selection criteria for performance management and outcomes, this section is worth 20 points. The successful respondent will demonstrate evidence of strong past performance against desired outcome goals and performance metrics and other notable accomplishments in providing services to the community. The successful respondent will have experience using data to identify problems in service delivery and inform or improve its services or practices. The successful respondent will discuss established food safety and quality control standards and procedures. The successful respondent will submit copies of current local health inspection reports and any applicable follow-up indicating compliance for all locations. The successful on-site respondent will demonstrate how their agency ensures quality data collection for participant registration forms and renewals. And the successful catered respondents will demonstrate how the agency ensures the accuracy of meals ordered and delivered. Next slide. For reasonable costs, budget justification, and leverage of funds section, this section is worth 15 points. The successful respondents will demonstrate the fiscal capacity to implement the proposed program prior to reimbursement. The successful respondents will provide justification for the proposed meal unit rate, which is inclusive of raw food costs and preparation, administrative costs, and delivery costs as applicable to the program model. The successful respondent will complete and submit the requested cost proposal as applicable to the program model. And the successful respondents will demonstrate existing auditing and appropriate follow-up. Next slide. So in terms of attachments for catered meal applicants, please include the following with your submitted application. This will include attachment 7B, the Good Food Policy Commitment, attachment 8A, the Congregate Catered Meal Cost Proposal, attachment number 10, which will include the sample Congregate quarterly menu. You'll want to make sure that you have resumes, certifications, and any other special licenses for staff involved in the Congregate program included, as well as a staffing chart that provides the number of line staff, supervisors, and other staff assigned to the project, and a copy of the most current full public health inspection report for all locations currently providing meals to the public. Respondents applying to provide both catered and on-site meal services must complete separate applications for each service model. Next slide. For attachments for the on-site meal applicants, please be sure to include the following. Attachment 8B, which is the Congregate on-site cost proposal. Attachment 9, which is the program accessibility self-evaluation. Attachment 10, which is a sample Congregate quarterly menu. The resume certifications and any special licenses for staff involved in the Congregate dining program. A staffing chart that provides the number of line staff, supervisors, and other staff assigned to the project. A copy of the most current full public health inspection report for agencies currently providing meals to the public. Next slide. In terms of the contract term and respondent eligibility, the term of the contract, the funding is subject to availability of funds from the City of Chicago, the Illinois Department on Aging, and the Older Americans Act. Delegate agency agreements will be made for a 3-year period, which includes October 1st, 2025 through September 30th of 2028 for an amount not to exceed $3 million for the first budget year. DFSS reserves the option to extend the delegate agency agreements for 1 additional year. In terms of eligible respondents, respondents for both catered and on-site services must be licensed and inspected food service establishments that have experience providing meals to the public. Respondents for on-site meal services must have program facilities that are accessible to persons with disabilities and be in full compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. This is a competitive process open to all entities, whether nonprofit, for-profit, faith-based, private, and public, and all units of government and sister agencies. Catered respondents, again, must submit the required catered cost proposal with the application, and on-site respondents must submit the required on-site cost proposal with the application. Next slide. Again, for the evaluation process, all applications are evaluated on the strengths of the proposal and the responsiveness to the selection criteria. Failure to submit a complete proposal or respond fully to all requirements may make your submission subject to rejection. The commissioner, upon review of recommended agencies, may reject, deny, or recommend agencies that have applied for grants based on previous performance and/or area of need. And DFSS reserves the right to ensure that all mandated services are available citywide and provided in a linguistically and culturally appropriate manner. Next slide. In terms of the selection and transition timeline, again, our pre-proposal webinar is today, June 18th. Our due date for pre-proposal questions is June 20th. Applications are due July 1st, and the program period begins October 1st, 2025. Next slide. And as a reminder, again, applications are due on July 1st at 12 p.m. noon Central Time.
Thank you, Madeline. At this time, we're gonna pause for questions. I do see that we have one question. It says, we are a new provider and don't have a public health inspection report. Is that okay?
So are you a new provider if you're a new provider to the city of Chicago or wherever you are a provider, I would reach out to the health department to get a get a inspection scheduled.
Thank you. And this question and answer will also be recorded in the amendment that will be published. So please keep on the lookout for that. And we will also pause one last time for questions at the end of the entire presentation. At this time, we're gonna go into application tips. Our first most important tip is to start your application. If you haven't already done so, start it as early as possible and save your answers as often as possible. And if you have never done business with the city of Chicago, please register into iSupplier ASCP. Please review RFP narratives and application questions closely. Remember that they align with the scope and the selection criteria. Please use the information in the RFP for your guidance on formulating your answers. There is a 4,000 character limit, which includes punctuation and spaces. Each response is allotted 4,000 characters. Please try not to use the back button on your browser. You could potentially lose your work. And again, we can't stress it enough to start your application as early as possible and to save it as often as possible. Just a couple tips for working in e-procurement. To submit multiple applications for a single RFP, applicants will need to set up a unique user account in iSupplier. The e-procurement system is not capable of submitting more than one distinct proposal per associated email address. Therefore, you must use a separate email address for each submission. You can submit your application and later amend it up until the due date of July 1st at 12 noon. Avoid the rush and possible mishaps by submitting early, and plan on your submission taking approximately 30 to 60 minutes. Please be advised that late applications cannot be accepted. For assistance, please make use of the e-procurement hotline at 312-744-4357. This hotline operates during business hours, which is Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Just a couple agency requirements. We require agencies to provide articles of incorporation and any amended articles of incorporations, as well as an IRS affirmation letter. This is for not-for-profit agencies only. And this letter must be dated within 60 days of submission. You can obtain this letter by calling the IRS directly at 1-877-829-5500. If you are a for-profit agency, please submit your original letter from the IRS showing your FEIN number. We require a UEI number in addition to the Central Contractor Registration, which can be obtained from the entity overview page on the www.sam.gov website. Most importantly, we require a certificate of good standing with the state of Illinois. As of April of 2024, we have a new labor peace agreement ordinance, which will apply to all DFSS and CDPH delegates that have more than 20 employees working for their organization. The only exemption is that it does not apply to hospitals. Contractor must provide written notice to the commissioner or her designee within 72 hours of becoming aware that employees want to organize or that a union seeks to represent employees. Contractor must enter into an LPA within 90 days of receiving notice that from a labor organization that it represents or seeks to represent employees. You may ask, what is an LPA? A labor peace agreement ordinance is an agreement between an employer and a labor union that ensures that an organizing drive is not impacted by union busting techniques, including employee retaliation. In return, they will not strike or stop work in a way that will impact human services. For technical assistance, there is a link to the RFP and training documents under the alert section on the website. For questions on registration and e-procurement technical assistance for delegate agencies, please reach out to customer support at cityofchicago.org. And they also can be reached via phone at 312-744-4357. The hotline is open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we also have training materials online, which includes documents and videos. And you can reach those documents and videos at the cityofchicago.org website under online training materials. At this time, we're going to enter into how to enter your responses and accepting the amendments. Step 1, select create quote from the drop-down menu in the actions box and then click on go. This will take you to the application page where you can get started. If the RFP you are interested in has been amended, and in this case it will be, you will need to acknowledge and accept that amendment to start or submit a response. To accept the amendment, please click on View Amendment History. To begin the acceptance and acknowledgement process, follow these steps after clicking View Amendment History. First, you click on the document number. Next, click on the infinity or eyeglass icon to review the amended changes to the RFP. And then you click on Acknowledge Amendments button to acknowledge receipt and understanding of the changes and proceed. By acknowledging the amendment, you are indicating that you are aware of the changes made to the RFP in the amendment. Once you get to this screen, please click on the I accept checkbox and then click on Acknowledge. Then you click on Yes to indicate that you confirm your acknowledgement of the amendment. Lastly, click on the checkbox that you accept the terms and conditions, and then click on Accept to accept the terms and conditions. And that is the final step in acknowledging and accepting the amendment that will be posted. Once the amendment has been accepted, you can move forward with submitting your application. We're gonna go through the steps on how to do that at this time. So step 1 on how to submit your application. So once you've entered all of your responses, attach all required documentation, and when you're finally ready to submit, you can start by saving your draft one last time and then clicking continue. When you click continue and you receive an error message at the top of the page, it most likely means that you're missing information. And then it'll give you a brief description on what section is missing information. So in this example, well, in the last example, the error message indicated that the lines had not been filled out. In this example here on the screen, the error is about an unanswered question in the application or the requirement section. The quote value refers to your, in this case, missing answer. So once you've filled in that spot that was missing, and your application is free from errors, you are finally ready to proceed and submit your application. And at this point, clicking continue should put your application into the review and submit phase. And once you see this screen, this is like a summary page, and it's also your last chance to review all of your data and to confirm that everything is accurate. Please check all of your attachments and scroll to the bottom of the screen to see all of your responses. And at the very bottom of the screen, you'll be asked to provide an electronic signature. Please be sure to fill in that signature before checking the box. Once you check the box, you can finally click submit. Once you submit your application, you will receive this confirmation screen. E-procurement system will also send a confirmation email within 24 hours of your submission. However, if you want confirmation prior to receiving that email, please feel free to email me. My name is Jillian Black. My email is jillian.black@cityofchicago.org, and I will provide that for you. At this time, I'm going to open the floor for any last questions. Again, our question deadline for congregate dining is Friday, June 20th, at 5 p.m. So you still do have time to submit questions if you don't have any at this time. And if we don't have any questions right now, that's fine. But if you do happen to have any questions after this webinar ends, the programmatic questions can be sent to Nikki Garbus Protis. She can be reached at nikki.garbus_protis@cityofchicago.org. And for any non-programmatic questions, these are like technical issues that you may be having with the system. Those can be sent to the e-procurement. Well, you can call the e-procurement hotline at 312-744-4357. Again, that hotline is open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And they also can be reached via email at customersupport@cityofchicago.org. And you can also send those questions to me. Again, my email is jillian.black@cityofchicago.org. I do see one question that just popped up. My email is, okay, regarding do not receive certificate of good standing from Secretary of State. Regarding sole proprietorships, we do not receive certificate of good standing from Secretary of State. I'm not sure if I'm understanding your question. Okay. We'll be sure to include, okay. Okay, we'll have to look into that, the sole proprietorship and what would substitute for the certificate of good standing, or if it's still required for that. We will look into that and we will provide that answer within the amendment that will be published. If there are no other questions, I'll hand it back over to the senior department to see if they have any closing remarks before we close out.
Thank you, Jillian. I think all we would like to say is thank you for your interest in the Congregate Dining Program RFP and taking the time to listen to our technical assistance session today. And just a reminder to please submit your application by July 1st at noon. Thank you so much and wishing you a good day.
Thank you. Thank you for attending our webinar for Congregate Dining. Good luck on your responses and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.